So, showing me shaking my head in my negative Nancy feel after that Buffalo game where they
Dolphins number one, baby!
Hands up, baby.
Dolphins number
Hands up.
one!
I swear, if a certain quarterback is mentioned in the comments, I got my beers ready. I'm going to crack it open.
Or is it the Serbian kid?
Serbia kid, This looks done. Oh my god, it looks fantastic.
I'm the man. I said it, and it's reality. All right.
Congratulations.
Happy Hump Day, Miami. Welcome to another episode of Fast Break with yours truly, Alex, and my right-hand man, like always, Clutch. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, man? Just ready to talk some hoops.
All right. As you can see, Justin is not with us on again today. He is currently over the States, flying back home. So we wish him safe travels. Work is work, long work, road trips. So we're going to miss you today. But first and foremost, before I kind of just lob it to Clutch, we can go absolutely berserks. Don't forget to like, subscribe before you listen to this rant. Finch Talk Sports Network. We continue to grow, constant content. This just had a past weekend where they covered the draft. The guys are exhausted. It was fun to see them. Classic around the clock coverage, and we couldn't be prouder of them. I'm prouder of Bobby, Dave, Evan, everybody, Wingate, everybody that partook in this draft. Go Tua, and that's my 2 cents for our network. We all saw Game 1 last time we were on Clutch. It was before Game 5 against the Bucks. We closed them out in classic fashion, kind of like the same MO of the first couple of games of that series. We move on to the Knicks. We take Game 1. I believe we match up well. I'm not surprised by anything they've done. They don't scare me one bit. I understand how we're going to defend them, how we're going to come out Game 3. But before we do so, obviously we're going to cover the beginning of this series, and we're going to start with Game 2. And with that being said, I hand it off to you, Clutch. Please tell me what you feel.
You know, I didn't even realize this was our first show since actually winning the series against Milwaukee. So got to be happy at least about that before we get into other things. But
absolutely,
yeah, I want to start off by saying, before all this officiating crap that I'm gonna get into, that some players on the Heat need to play better without Jimmy Butler, and that's Bam Adebayo, who had 10 field goal attempts yesterday, and that just doesn't cut it when you're playing without Jimmy Butler in Madison Square Garden. Now, let's talk about Scott Foster, because what the fuck? Seriously, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's an expression that we could use.
Before you even get into the goaltend that shouldn't have been not goaltend, shot clock violation that shouldn't have been shot clock violation, that should have gone in as a layup, cut the lead to 1. Before you even get into that, how do you call that? How do you call that a 4-point play? He was not going up for the shot when he got fouled.
At all. We
all saw it. We know what the hell is wrong with Scott Foster. Like, I thought this was some Chris Paul meme shenanigans that everybody was talking about. Ha, Scott Foster, calling him the extender. But this dude literally wanted the Knicks to win yesterday. Because I think it was in the third quarter. The bullshit started there, where Josh Hart pushed his own guy down on the floor, and they called it on Bam. That's when I knew it was going to start getting weird. And then you get that 4-point play, which makes no sense. First of all, Jalen Brunson should not have been that open, and Bam shouldn't have fouled. Let's start with that. But we were up by I think we were up by 6 at that point.
Yeah.
And That's a 4-point swing. That's
Mhm.
a 4-point swing late in the fourth quarter. That should not have been a 4-point swing. I don't know if they were in the bonus or not, but at most they should have gotten 2 points out of that instead of 4. And then I see it in slow motion. I don't think a lot of people saw it. I have a whole thread going on Twitter about this shit that happened yesterday. How Julius Randle pulled. I mean, he elbowed Kyle Lowry in the face, and they called it a rebounding foul on Kyle Lowry.
Yeah.
I know Kyle Lowry has a reputation. I understand that. But how does that? He got hit in the face, dude. That if you're not gonna call it against Randle, at least no call it, because. And then the shit that got me pissed off the most. Now we get to the shot clock violation, because if you make a call, because it was a call, the play stopped because of a shot clock violation, you should be able to review that call.
Absolutely. Especially
It
a call like
hit the rim.
that.
It hit the rim. We were down by 3.
Which I believe is up to the discretion of the referee.
Yeah.
If the coach requests a review, that I believe is up to the discretion of the referee, they can make a review in that play.
I mean, Eric Spoelstra, I don't know if you saw it during the game.
Mhm.
He was twirling his finger like a madman because he couldn't. The coaches can't legally challenge that play.
No, but the problem is even physics, man. The ball came at an arc. The moment it nipped the rim, it went straight down.
It doesn't make sense. It went straight down into Vincent's hands for a free layup that if they would not have stopped play, it was going to be a free layup anyways. So
Correct.
that's a 1-point game late in the Garden. And after we have Gabe Vincent at the time. He's going nuclear on the Knicks. He's making every shot known to man. He did fantastic. I have nothing but good things to say about Gabe Vincent after all the crap I talked about him earlier in the season. But I have nothing but good things to say. In the fourth quarter, he showed up when it mattered. And you know what? Sorry, but Bam did not, because 10 field goal attempts, I'm sorry, just does not cut it. I know that they were still doing well without Bam being ultra aggressive. And outside of the field goal attempts, you know what? You don't want to shoot. You want to be timid. It doesn't matter. But rebound, who's not boxing out? Like after having a huge number of box outs, I think it was in the Milwaukee series, and he did amazingly.
Yeah, he did.
He kept getting boarded on. There was possessions where the Knicks got 3-4 extra attempts because of some dude who I can't even pronounce it. Hardenstein.
Yeah,
He kept like bringing the plays alive because Bam cannot get a single rebound. Nobody could get a rebound on the team. So like stuff like that. I was mentally prepared when I saw that Jimmy Butler was out. I was mentally prepared to be 1-1. But in the way that it happened, with just that was egregious, like blatant egregious calls by Scott Foster and his crew. That something like that, like that's what gets me mad, and I'm still mad today about it, because if we lost, you know what? We lost. They won, it's fine. But that way, when there was a huge swing just because of officiating, like that's the type of shit that gets me mad. And I'm sorry for cursing so much if any kids are watching.
It's cool, bro.
Jesus Christ, dude. Like,
trust me, I was.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say about the Knicks, and screw the Knicks, because they're celebrating like they did something. Like they didn't need massive amounts of help to beat a G League team that had no Jimmy Butler. And now you have on Instagram Julius Randle posting a hype video of the game yesterday. Like he has no shame whatsoever that he beat a bunch of randoms, and his highlights were scoring on Duncan Robinson.
Man, I guarantee you, Clutch. You're done or no?
Oh yeah, Jimmy Butler nodding like in approval after the game. These
waving at the fans.
They're in trouble.
Look, I'm telling you right now. What I took from yesterday's game. Number one, this has always been a philosophy of mine, and I don't know why it's not implemented more. I feel when certain players miss, teams play more freely. Why? Obviously, because you don't have to guarantee touches. The flow of the game is different. I do believe in one of my coaching philosophies is I obviously you want not egotistical superstars where everybody has an ego, but you don't want selfish superstars. And we have the epitome of that in Butler, because as he starts the game, he kind of feels for the game. Now, this series, like a lot of series, are going to come down to role players, and they have been stepping up. Granted, Max Strus played amazing yesterday. Gabe Vincent played lights out, not only defensively but offensively. And you count on him. He looked like a starting point guard in this league. Don't get me confused. I know this offseason things are going to change. Things might happen, but you can see what was the blueprint during the whole season, what we should have been doing, what we should have been how we should have looked if the shots were falling, if the role players were playing to their roles. Now, what I took from this game, this offense is clicking, and Shaq made a comment in the post game show where this offense is clicking on all cylinders. When you saw Jimmy was going to be out, I was wondering if Randall was still going to sit out. I figured that they were going to try to push it because this was their chance. You don't want to go to Miami down 2-0 because you can possibly get swept. And I know a lot of people talk a lot of shit about the Heat during the season. We were very inconsistent, but this team got consistency at the right time. What you saw towards the end of the game, and I'm not going to use Scott Frost as an excuse, even though it is blatantly missed calls after missed calls in critical points of the game that alter the game. Even with that, we were minutes away from closing out a game. But in that instance, no matter how free your team plays, when you don't have a designated superstar where no one's going to take over, which in that case, and Bam has been accountable for it, Bam should have taken over at the end of that game. Because this is the reason you have these guys. This is where you miss Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero in that situation with no Jimmy Butler, he takes over with 4 or 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. That is when Jimmy takes over these games. 6-minute mark, fourth quarter, that's why Jimmy's your closer. That's what this team is missing when Jimmy's out. Now, we saw this is probably their strongest punch. They don't have really anything left here to surprise us. Schematically, with rotations, there's nothing they can really do that we haven't seen. That's why you see Jimmy nodding, and I'm not going to guarantee that we're going to, give him the gentleman's sweep and close it out in 5. I still think it might be a 6-game series, but I would not be surprised if the Heat do close it out in 5, because this team right now has the making where me as a coach, I know you want to play your best players. And I don't know if I was in that situation, if I would have cleared Jimmy myself, but that's why it's responsibility, and you clear through your medical staff. You don't want to rush this. You don't want to put Jimmy to play game 2. You lose him for an extended period of time. You lose the game. Now you go to Miami tied 1-1. Oh, yeah, we got home court advantage, but I don't got Jimmy Butler. So that was a cautious. That's why you go out and you win game 1. You secure home court advantage. You get the split automatically. We almost pulled out and came back 2-0. The way the game was going, you knew, Clutch, from the first quarter, when I saw this being back and forth, I'm like, oh, man, this game is going to go down to the wire, which is what you want. This is playoff basketball. But I understand they're planning for they're schematically removing Bam from his comfort points, and I believe Spo's going to make some adjustments, and I believe game 3 is going to start with Bam getting featured calls for him offensively to get him going. But I do commend that he became more of a distributor. He still had 8 rebounds, 6 assists, but he was not aggressive when it counted, when he needed to be. And I need people to realize this. Bam Adebayo is never going to be your most aggressive offensive player. Bam Adebayo can be the most important player in the team overall, but he's not going to be your most aggressive offensive player. Bam Adebayo always plays better with a 2-man game, where he kind of feeds off the other person, with the Jimmy, whether it be Tyler, whether it be Kyle even at times. We don't have really anybody else. Everybody else mostly is a role player here. But that's why, for example, his game goes well with like Donovan Mitchell, De'Aaron Fox, Damian Lillard. Those are the type of players that Bam can coexist with, and Jimmy Butler himself. So it sucks that we didn't get to close out game 2. We kind of understood where we were going with this, so I'm not surprised either. I like the fact that this game also gives confidence to those role players just to keep doing what they're doing. We know we can keep up with them. The ball's moving, shots are falling. I gotta commend Kevin Love. Kevin Love is stepping up. He's playing. He's showing his experience. He was a little bit outmatched yesterday, but he still came huge. Caleb Martin. I was surprised, honestly, that Spo started him. I mean, I understand it because he wants that spurt that Jimmy has, but I really thought he was going to maybe implement Highsmith. I don't see anybody else really getting minutes in the series unless it's injuries or
Highsmith played a
such.
really good game defensively, by the way.
Amazing, amazing. There's no words. Once again, and I don't want to fall into this trap clutch where we talk about how we develop players, but the whole conversation this year was like, oh, Miami has like 9 undrafted players. Name me a more solid rotation right now in the playoffs. Obviously, aside from possibly I would say the late Golden State. We saw what happened with Memphis. Like I told Bob, we saw what happened in the situation like Cleveland. You're still a veteran away. That's why veteran leadership is so important and coaching is so important. You can't rely, and we'll talk about this later on the show. Even the situation with Phoenix. Phoenix doesn't have a bench. Phoenix has no depth. Now you lost Chris Paul. You're outmatched against the Nuggets because you don't have any defense. So this is the things that, yes, I understand going for it. You're going for the name. You're going for Kevin Durant. But realistically, that team, like Phoenix, has to retool this offseason to get complementary players that can actually defend the basketball. Because Devin Booker's not a defensive juggernaut. Kevin Durant is not a defensive juggernaut. He has height, but he has less mobility. You got DeAndre Ayton, but you take DeAndre out of the game, that's it. You're done. So I'm okay for now with the rotational players that we have. When Jimmy's healthy, and I'm not trying to be a homer here, I understand the deficiencies that are in this roster. So please hear me out. People are like, oh, here goes the homer. No, I understand this game from the coaching perspective. I see it from the inside out. I'm just not a fan. Unfortunately, when you coach basketball, you never see the game again just as a fan. You see it, you dissect the decisions, you look, oh, I would have done this. Look, even Spo, I understand what they did at the end of the game, but I still think they let too much time run out. When we were defending, it was like 20, 23 seconds, 20 seconds. We try to go for the steal, but we let 10 seconds off the clock. That's valuable time because you saw he put in Robinson. There was a 3-point game with like 6 seconds left, 7 seconds left. So we're never out of it, even with the officiating. And that is something, that's the testament that you take your battles during the season. You understand the difficulties that you face, which at times it was unjust because we knew what was happening. We knew the situation with Kyle Lowry. We knew the situation when we had a Kevin Love. There was going to be adjustments. Jimmy has been healthy. Now, I want to make sure that everybody's healthy. Caleb, Max looks like he injured his lower back when he took the charge. Caleb, when he slid into the sidelines, into the chairs of the Knicks bench. So those are the moments that it's great that we don't play again until Saturday, I believe. So now we had Jimmy play. Was it Monday? Jimmy played Monday or Sunday?
Sunday.
So basically, Jimmy had a week off of treatment of all that. So expect Game 3 to start guns blazing, man. It's gonna be a bloodbath, and I'm not gonna say it's gonna be a blowout, but it is gonna be great playoff basketball. Now, with that being said, Clutch, how do you see this before we go even talking about the playoffs and we'll talk about MVP Embiid finally? How do you see this series playing out?
You know what? After the reaction to yesterday's game, there's nothing I want more than to close them out in their own building in 5 games.
Oh, send them
Because there's
packing.
so much little chirping and shit talking when you're not playing the best two-way player in basketball right now, and arguably the best player in basketball right now, when he's out of the game. Then you get to talking. You know that Michael Jordan tweet is like, "Oh, when you're ahead, it's easy to talk.
No one's talking
But
shit
when
when
the
you're
score's
tied.
0-0 or you're losing, that's when the real shit talking happens." And Jimmy Butler, after losing, he's smiling, nodding, flicking off the fans. He wants
Yeah.
this. You know he wants this.
Well,
And
man,
if Jimmy's
when
confident, man, if Jimmy's
Jimmy did
confident,
that to
I'm
Justin,
confident.
when Jimmy did it to Drew Holiday, I was gonna say Justin. Do you remember what he did to Holiday? We were still down like 6 or 8 points, and he was talking mad shit to Drew Holiday. It's like, I own you. That is when you know, when you have what you were mentioned yesterday. Just seeing Jimmy on the sidelines when he's out, I always like to see what he's doing on the sidelines. Not trying to be funny or anything, because obviously he goes out of his way to do that. But I just like to see when he's analyzing the game, the way people don't realize this. As a competitor, you want to win every game. But in the playoffs, you understand, like, oh, the greatest teams, we're like, oh my God, how can we lose? Dude, Michael Jordan, when they won the championships against Utah, was 4-2, 4-2. Some of them were 4-3. They're This is playoff basketball. Sometimes it's calculated losses like that. You push for the win, but you're okay with a loss because you know you're going back home, and you can possibly win the next two at home. So I'll let you finish. Sorry that I interrupted you for my point there.
No, you pretty. I kind of forgot what I was gonna say. The whole
Oh,
tangent
sorry,
that I
man.
had
I'm so
earlier
sorry.
kind of just blew my memory completely. But oh, it was basically what I was saying. If Jimmy's that confident, like we saw on TV yesterday, I'm pretty. I know I sound like I'm not confident because I'm mad, but that's kind of the opposite. I'm mad, but
Yeah.
I'm really confident because Jimmy is confident. He
Mhm.
like he gives off that vibe to everybody that watches him. He just, you know what, relax. I'm here next time.
Mhm.
This is not happening again.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you think about it, the Knicks were playing yesterday. Their top guys, like you mentioned, against Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, Duncan Robinson, a 36-year-old Kevin Love, a 37-year-old Kyle Lowry, Caleb Martin, Highsmith. This is the epitome of playoff basketball where you have. I'm not talking about the underdog story, but what you just mentioned is true. You take on the persona of your leader, both off the court and on the court. When you have the confidence that the Miami Heat players have right now, because that's one thing. We're not going through a shooting slump. I'm not saying we won't. I'm not saying it's going to be difficult at times. Yes, it will. But the way we're playing basketball right now, that shows you how important the mental state of the game is for a regular player. People forget that being a basketball player is not just about talent. You are a human being at the end, and things do affect certain players with their confidence, with their execution. When you see the ball going through the hoop, all of a sudden you play defense a little bit harder. When you see the ball going through the hoop, all of a sudden you pass that extra pass. You give up a good shot for a great shot. You trust your teammates. And that's one thing that I think the camaraderie has been built this season through the Heat, through the struggles. And I don't fear any team, honestly, in the NBA. I understand the powerhouse that the Nuggets are, the Lakers, the Warriors. I understand that. But I do believe our depth can handle anybody whatsoever, especially in the East. And I wanted to talk to you about Clutch. I'm gonna segue to that. First and foremost, obviously, congratulations to Joel Embiid. He won his first MVP, and rightfully so. I'm really tired of people campaigning for personal awards. I don't really care for that. I understand what your worth is might not always be seen by somebody. At the end of the day, what's most important is an NBA championship. Obviously, he gets his fair value. You can argue he was the most valuable player this year with Nikola and Giannis. So you can make that argument, and whoever wants to protest it, that's if they wanted to make about race, whatever the case may be. I really don't care about all that. What one thing I want to ask you, Clutch, and this is something that I'm seeing. I know the Celtics are young, and I know we match up better against Philadelphia. Me and Bobby talked about it on Monday. I think we match up better with Philadelphia. James Harden showed you game one that he can still go into who he was and who he has always been. People forget that when you are these mega superstars and ultra talented players, you can play a different style of game. James Harden is not asked in the Sixers to score 40 points a game. He doesn't have to be Houston Harden. He's asked to be a facilitator. That's why his assist numbers are up, his rebounding numbers are up. He's an all-around player. He showed you what he can do on Monday. Joel Embiid is coming back, I believe, today, if I'm not mistaken. I don't even know if the game started or not. I haven't checked anything. But there's one thing that I saw that is a little alarming to me. If the Celtics don't get past this series, there might be some changes there in regards to Jaylen Brown, Grant Williams. Is there a window here closing for the Celtics? Because I know they're young, and I don't want to. I'm not trying to be a homer with the Heat, and I understand how things can change, but this seems to be the Celtics' best chance to make something and to actually win. I honestly, I think last year was their best chance because the East is up and coming with the Cavs. Obviously, the Magic are going to start playing much better. The Pistons are up and coming. People don't realize how strong the NBA is going to be and the parity that's going to have. Is there changes coming for the Celtics coach that you see? Because I don't think this tandem of Tatum and Brown can actually win a championship together.
I think the Celtics, the players are patient. I think the fans are kind of patient because they like the core. But it's really going to come down to what the front office, if they're patient, because they're frankly they're an organization that has I forgot what 18 championships I want to say. So they want to keep winning these championships even though they've won one in like 40 years. But let's not get into that.
Yeah. By acquiring, by basically Kevin McHale dropping off to some megastar and Kevin Garnett for Al Jefferson.
Yeah, that's crazy. But I mean, as an outsider, I would say the window's closing. Maybe not. They're not going to split them this year. Maybe after, if they fail next year, because they have Gallinari coming back from injury. So maybe they think if we have healthy pieces, it can work. If we add one or two more role players or upgrade it in certain positions, maybe it could work with Tatum and Brown. But
Mhm.
I don't know. Personally, I think they probably have one more year after this one
Mhm.
to win together, and then we're gonna see changes if nothing happens.
And speaking about changes, it's crazy how different things could be in a year from now. Milwaukee has some decisions to make. Chris Middleton is an unrestricted free agent. They have very limited availability on how to upgrade their roster. They traded 5 second-round picks for Jay Crowder, and he didn't even play the last 2 games, or I think he played like 5 minutes the last 2 games. So that is why you don't overreact in the trade deadline. This is something that I preach to people and I talk to them. And I think I've been pretty consistent. And you can hold me honest. I did the one thing surprised me. Obviously, injuries didn't help him out. I'm surprised that Omer didn't get off his feet this year. I think he could have helped us out in certain moments. I understand the limitations, and when he came back, he was just out of the rotation. He didn't fit in. He tried. I think they played him like 2 games. He's completely out of it. So I don't know where his future lies. Um, I was pretty consistent. I am intrigued. No matter what happens this offseason, I think one of the great successes of this offseason is making sure we don't have to move Jovic. But obviously, it might be a bigger piece. I don't think this playoff run is going to change anything that the front office had in mind. It might alter some decisions with some of the unrestricted free agents, and depending on if you can move someone, if you can package other ones, if you just let some people walk away, like the situation with Memphis and Dylan Brooks, which is I'll ask you that about Dylan Brooks. To me, it's funny because uh, he became the epitome of what is wrong with Memphis, where they think they're super good, but they're not there yet, and then they're too cocky and they forget that other teams are talented as well, and they can't back up what they're saying. So Memphis basically came out bluntly and told them that he's not going to be back with them under any circumstances, and he's an unrestricted free agent, so that lowers the market for him as well. Um, I'm sure there's going to be some teams that bid. I hope the Heat don't, but I
Oh no.
understand there's going to be rumors because he kind of fits what we are. He has struggled shooting wise. He fits with the Lakers. He fits with the Suns. He fits with the Nuggets. He's a decent player, but he's not someone that I want to rely on like Memphis did. And Memphis, I believe this year also, and we'll get on to obviously when the finals are over, we'll kind of analyze each team. That could be like a fun game for us. I do Memphis might overhaul part of their roster to have a little bit more veteran presence. They're not going to strip their roster. They're going to tweak a little bit what they have going on. They'll probably get a little bit more shooting, a veteran presence with Adams. They missed Adams greatly this postseason. They would have been different if Steven Adams was playing. But that's the luck of the draw. Now, with us, with the East, moving along this offseason, there's going to be some changes no matter what. I don't believe the results of wherever we end up, and I do believe that we have a path to the finals that is attainable. I do believe we will make the finals based on our matchups, but this whole season, and I think I've mentioned it too many times, we had to hold steady. We had to find a consistent lineup, a consistent rotation, and we could have not. We couldn't have found that at a better time. Now, my question to you: did Spo know all along that come playoff time, they were going to turn it on. Like, were we being trolled this whole season? Because I never doubted their confidence. You always know they're confident in who they have, and it's enough. We have enough, etc., etc. I'm pretty sure they questioned certain things late in the season, but something clicked with 6 minutes left against the Bulls in that playing game that I had never seen this season before. I don't know if it's Jimmy clicking at that moment. They waited for the last possible regular season moment to click and start, because they've been a completely different team, Clutch, from 6 minutes left against the Bulls in the playing game to what we see right now. They're a completely different team than the regular season. So what is your analysis of this season? Is it just an anomaly for us?
I think Spo knew in the sense that in the playoffs you go as far as your best player takes you. I think that's it's a good theory to have. And he knew Jimmy was going to be there.
Yeah.
And Jimmy has this thing about him that he inspires everybody around him to thinking they can do it too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very clear by the way you see Caleb and Gabe especially play. They play like I joke around sometimes on Twitter, like who does this guy think he is?
Yeah.
When he pulls up his weird shots and stuff like that. But that's the confidence that Jimmy instills in his teammates.
Mm-hmm.
Like after the I think game 1, Bam straight out came out and said, "We tell Gabe take more shots," because Gabe out of college, I think they were saying that he was a scorer and he turned into a point guard for the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not new to him. So I just think Spo was confident in Jimmy and Jimmy was confident in everybody else. And I knew they weren't going to be pushovers, but obviously I didn't expect them to upset the best team in the NBA, which is something crazy. By the way, also shout out to the Florida Panthers who destroyed the best team in the NHL history.
Did you see the last game live?
The last game was the first full hockey game I've ever watched in my life.
It was amazing.
I'm in.
Amazing.
I'm in.
Oh my God. Clutch, have you been to a hockey game or no?
No. I've never had anything to do with hockey until
Clutch,
Game 7.
You gotta go. I'm not gonna talk shit. This year I couldn't make it to any hockey game. One of my good friends from Homestead, like I was telling Bobby on Monday, he's gone to 25 games. So shout out to Willie. He's gone up to like 25, 30 games this year, I believe. And he lives in Homestead. Obviously, the Panthers went through a coaching change. This is a coaching veteran, so he's not going to get out coached. There's a different philosophy. Well, obviously, we acquired our next generational star in Truchek. Am I saying his last name correct? Truchek? I don't know. Truchek.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he's a stud. Obviously, it cost us Huberdeau, but Huberdeau was 29. We were not going to give him a contract extension. We traded Huberdeau, a defenseman, a future. I think it was a 2025 first round pick, and we acquired Truchek, which is 24-25, signed into an extension. This team is going to be good for years to come, and obviously we build slowly. This is the build that the Panthers have is kind of like what you expect the Marlins to do, hopefully, but it was slow, methodical. It was scouting. It was drafting the right players, signing some key free agents, but when you go to a hockey game live, it's almost, I would say I get the same rush as a basketball game, because it's the only game that is constant back and forth. Because football, you have your stops. Tennis, even, you have your stops. I would compare basketball and hockey as the quickest back and forth game. So it keeps you active. It stimulates you. And when you see them play live, it's quiet. It's not as constant talking as the Heat, but you hear obviously the puck. You hear the slamming against the boards. You hear them skating. And what they did to Boston, and it's kind of like the same feeling you have with the Heat. You knew they were going to tie the game. You knew they were going to tie the game, because I was sitting with my son watching it, and I'm like, bro, they're going to tie this game. And it was like 2 minutes left, and I'm like, they're going to tie this game. And then when they tie it and you go into overtime, you're like, we're going to win this fucking game, man. We're going to win it. You feel it. And they go out. Then they win. They beat Toronto yesterday to take a 1-series lead. They're also going to the finals, I believe. Oh, so excited. My camera just fell. But it's amazing. It's amazing what's going on in Florida sports right now at the moment. And not going to talk about the Dolphins because we all see our group chats. You already know how I feel. I think they're going to be number one in the AFC East. I believe they're going to be the number one seed in the AFC. With
You
Vic Fangio,
know
going to take
ball.
advantage of this.
Unlike some other people in this network. Wink, wink.
Much love. Hey,
Love you
I
guys,
just don't.
but
Yeah, we love you. I just don't see how you can argue that last year the unit that struggled the most was our defensive unit. When you bring in Vic Fangio, and the players are saying it, one thing that Vic Fangio, which is funny because you would think is the opposite. Older DC, you want things done his way, and then they're like, the number one thing we have is freedom now. We can play. That when you do that, that's like Mike McDaniel offensively. He gives their player freedoms. They give you a scheme. They obviously they're going to keep you accountable. Obviously, Mike McDaniel's it's growing. Second year head coach. He has the experience. He knows what he did wrong. You learn from his mistakes. He's a very cerebral person, so he's accountable for his own mistakes. I just don't see how Clutch, unless there's a major injury, obviously to Tua, to a Tyreek Hill. I don't see how we're not in the top 2 or 3 in the AFC at all. And I'm being honest, I'm not being a homer. This is the most talented group I've ever seen. I understand we have our holes, but in my whole life, I have never seen a more talented group all around, both defensively and offensively, in my life at all. So we'll see. It's an exciting time in Miami. So we are give your predictions here, Clutch. Next game tomorrow. Saturday. Is it Saturday?
yeah, Saturday.
Holy shit! Why don't we play again until Saturday?
You know what? Considering Jimmy's injury, I'm not complaining.
At all. But wow, why do we play until Saturday?
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, we played. Jesus, are we sure it's Saturday? That's the next game.
Well, it's Saturday.
Holy shit! Wow, I know they start spacing them out, but I didn't expect this. Wow. Okay. This is weird. Let me see. Let's see this series. Hold on. What is the layoff for this series? Wow, Saturday, then Monday. Okay, that's normal.
Yeah,
It's
I
just
think
this
it's
big
Saturday,
extra.
but then they space every other day like normal.
They space every other day. Yeah, because usually they give you 3 days or 2 days when you travel, when you got to change if it's game 5, game 6. But wow, damn, that's an extra rest. That's perfect. Honestly, I know we had talked about it and I mentioned it, but I'm thinking that today's like Thursday or Friday. I forgot this is Wednesday, bro. But
Yeah,
whatever, man. The more the merrier. So, your take, what do we do Saturday?
I hope we kill them. I hope. But
Man,
knowing them, I'm gonna give. This is the rare occasion. I'm gonna give the Knicks some props. They're a scrappy team to beat.
they are.
They're scrappy. They don't go away easy, but we are better. I'm just saying, but we're better. So I expect
Absolutely.
us to be better. I expect the crowd to show up like they did for the Milwaukee series, and I expect Jimmy Butler at the end of the day to be Jimmy Butler.
Man, can you imagine, Clutch? This is a funny one. If they would have acquired Donovan Mitchell,
That would have been crazy.
I don't know if they. I don't know, man. And how much do you think that Mark Cuban is shooting himself in the foot every time he sees Jalen Brunson playing the way he plays, and not
I mean,
signing him?
Jalen Brunson is actually like I made this comment. I said, "Yo, Jalen Brunson is so likable. Too bad he's a Knick."
Yeah.
Because the only reason I don't like Jalen Brunson is because he's on the Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, he's fantastic. I mean, honestly, like right now, like the way you've seen the Mavericks play and the way you've seen the Knicks play, Jalen Brunson has been more. You're not gonna say better because of talent, but because we know what Kyrie is.
Of
But
course.
he's been more impactful in winning
Yes.
than Kyrie.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because if it's crazy because Jalen Brunson is a ball dominant guard, but he's a very efficient ball dominant guard. You get me? It's not like he's not going to overtake you. And I'm not saying he's a great defender because he's not, but he's all right. Okay, I guess he's a decent rebounder for his size, but he makes the game easier for his teammates, which is what great players do. And I'm not saying Kyrie doesn't, but like you mentioned, and it's funny because I don't think we're ever going to ever fully be able to assess Kyrie as a basketball player. Does that make sense to you? Because it's always going to be over his head where he's been, who he is. Because you can't deny that as a basketball player, he's one of the best ball handlers we've ever seen. He's one of the best scoring point guards we've ever seen. I will put him honestly behind Steph Curry's obviously number one. I don't think there's see, that's another fun game. Top scoring point guards. And I'm going off the list here where like people don't even remember Stephon Marbury, Steve Francis. Like I understand the magnitude of this, you get me? But he's under that realm where they were great players, but they were never on winning teams. You get me? Like I don't know if Kyrie with a set of like role players like Jimmy, I don't know if that team will be great. And it all depends on the organization because Jimmy Butler has gotten better as he's gotten older. I understand when he got traded to Minnesota, it was like, oh, Jimmy Butler. But Jimmy Butler hasn't been this great until he came to Miami. People can't deny that because I'm not saying we improved him. He's playing more efficiently, but we basically embraced who he is because he is us. He is the epitome of us as an organization in a player form, kind of like Alonzo was. So he is fully himself, and he displays that on the court. And a lot of people overlooked Jimmy Butler for many years. The Bulls did the same thing that the Mavs did to Jalen. The Bulls didn't want to extend Jimmy. They didn't want to hand over the franchise to Jimmy after Derrick Rose, and they traded him to Minnesota. So I'm glad that we found a way to get Jimmy here, and
that Dwayne Wade found a way.
Yes. I'm telling you, bro. And don't get me wrong. There's so many players. One thing that I'll end on this because people don't see these things. People want like instant gratification. They want instant results. When you see the Miami Heat now on a national stage playing basketball, that obviously in NBA inner circles with agents and coaches, everybody understands the style of basketball that the Miami Heat play. We don't have to sell anything to anyone. People are going to go, they have their own agendas and all that. But any player that wants a second chance, any player that has something to prove, any player that feels that they're the missing part, a missing link to a championship team, wants to come here. And when this is on full display, obviously our deficiencies are on full display. So players know their worth can be appreciated here, but also shows a testament to our coaching staff, to player personnel, to the scouting department, to everything. That's what gives you comfort where this is a winning organization. This is going to continue to be a winning organization. And I don't know if we were born into it because we're here in Miami. So we might take it for granted because, yes, the NBA is going to have parity. But imagine being a fan of, like, let's say, I'm not going to say Toronto because Toronto's a decent city, a decent basketball mind, and they're gonna rebuild. But imagine just being a city where you are a perennial losing team and you never make it out of it. Like at times Houston's on the globe again. San Antonio is always a great organization. They've had 2 or 3 years where they've been rebuilding. That rebuild has been slow. Charlotte, perfect example. Charlotte, Washington Wizards. Oh, which one of our listeners mentioned that 2, 3, 4, 2. Man, we has to have a name. We got to change this number of what the Wizards should do. Which I believe Wizards could probably try to trade Porzingis or maybe sign and trade Kuzma because
when the Knicks traded Porzingis to the Mavs, the Heat were in it.
Yes.
So, and Porzingis kind of seems to fit what we want to do with somebody next to Bam. He's a bigger Kevin Love, isn't he?
Yeah, but I'd rather have Jovic.
I do want to try to keep Jovic as much as possible because I don't. Did you see the difference in one of the pictures of him when he first drafted to now?
He's bulked up. I'm telling you, man. I don't want to get rid of him. I do not want to get rid of him. And people are gonna call me crazy. I know it might not happen. I have no problem with Vincent being our starting point guard and Boucher. Is it Boucher? I always get it wrong, man.
Boucher
being the backup point guard. I'm not saying Kyle Lowry won't be here, but I believe Kyle Lowry will be shipped out. There's going to be some deal there. The problem is in this role, bro, the way they're playing right now, this was how they were going to play the whole season. This is what I envisioned this whole season. I figured that Kyle was going to come off the bench eventually. Remember, we talked about it when he got injured and the trade rumors started coming out and he wasn't traded. We said all along, the organization is going to use this to establish a new role for Kyle. Kyle is on par with the head coach in Spoelstra because it's for the betterment of the team. And you can see the team clicking on all cylinders. And when Hero went down, I guarantee you a lot of people, Hero went down the first game against Milwaukee. I guarantee you 50% of the Heat fans were like, oh, man, that's it. We're done. We don't have scoring. We don't have this. Everybody has stepped up. So it's like a rotational. Next man up, next man up. And people don't realize this, but we have in Jamal Cain, in Bouger, in Jovic, we have talent coming in, and young talent. So you can make some moves and acquire more veterans here and there. With obviously the biggest question is always going to be Damian Lillard. I do want to keep my eye on Paul George. For some reason, I have a feeling about Paul George. And other names are going to come up. I'm pretty sure there's in the offseason, there's going to be other names going to come up that want a change of scenery. Please don't do Bradley Beal anymore. I'm tired. I don't know if you are. I think you have. I'm exhausted with Bradley Beal talk.
Yeah,
like, that's it. That's it. I can take Damian Lillard all day. No problem. Obviously, Toronto. I think Toronto's going to rebuild. I don't think they're going to trade OG. What other?
OG would be a fantastic Heat player, wouldn't he?
Oh, amazing. I'm pretty sure they were talking about acquiring him in mid-season. But Messiah kept him. There's a reason he kept him. They're going to rebuild there. I want to see what Houston does. Houston can be the wild card here because Houston can sign Chris Middleton. They can sign James Harden. They can trade for Jaylen Brown. They have a lot of moving pieces. Orlando also. Orlando has a lot of moving pieces. OKC has moving pieces. So this offseason is going to be interesting, man.
It's going to be interesting to see, especially with Houston, if they can somehow get Wembanyama.
Yeah.
Then that opens. I mean, Wembanyama is an attraction.
Yeah,
because of his height and he's a freak. So that might be enough to lure Harden back. That might be to lure free agents, anybody. So it'd be interesting. Especially, I want to see where that big fella ends up because he's going to change the franchise.
He is, man. He is. And it's crazy. Do you know it would be crazy if he ends up in Dallas next to Luka? That's like, bro, that's not even fair, man. But, hey, Dallas has always been – it's crazy how Texas has always been a hub for, like, international players from San Antonio, Dallas, Dirk Nowitzki, Luka. So, but remember, relationships matter. Luka and Dragic, and I do see if Dragic retires or comes back even next season, someone's gonna fit that UD role. We have that 15-man, so it's gonna be interesting, man. I just want to enjoy the rest of the ride this postseason. But Alex Brown, Texas, long live Texas.
Hey, Alex is probably happy as hell coming off of that NFL draft.
Oh, for sure. I'm pretty sure. We'll ask him. Are you going to be on today or no?
No, not today.
No, okay. I'll ask him.
I got some stuff today. But I remember he told me I do not want Will Anderson because he thought they only had one pick.
Yeah.
But ended up getting Will Anderson and CJ Stroud.
Yeah. Oh, man. But, hey, I'm telling you, the reason – and the NFL is getting to that point too. I love sports when there's parity. I love sports when there's parity because there's competition, man. Competition at its highest. I hate it's crazy because the NBA is going through a transition. Obviously, we're transitioning from the LeBron and Steph Curry era, and you're kind of stepping into the new era. We have Giannis, still. I wouldn't be surprised if Giannis retires, honestly, man. I'm not saying he's going to retire right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if Giannis retires in like 2 or 3 years. He looks like that type of – honestly, I would do the same thing, man. Because I'm a competitor, but I'm a big family man. So I would probably do the same thing. But it's just, I just want to enjoy it, man. That's the beauty of it. Brown, I lost my mind. 2-win team to a 4-win team. Hey, that's a 2-win. That's a 50% improvement, man. You can't go wrong. Remember, it's a building process. We went through it over here. But DeMarco Ryan is much better than Brian Flores. I'll give him that. And much props to Brian Flores. He was a great defensive coach. But I don't want to talk shit. But long live Tua. We are 2-on. All right, but this culminates our show for tonight. We don't have any Heat basketball until Saturday, but to all our listeners, enjoy the NBA playoffs. Enjoy the NHL playoffs. Go Panthers. Coming up next, we have No Holds Bar with yours truly, Alex Brown. Oh, Ralph, let me see. Who should retire is CP3. That's true. That's true. But, and you know, now that you mentioned that, Ralph, one of the things that we always go through is it's insane when you see an aging superstar. And the only reason is I'm not saying that they can't produce at times, but you see the little injuries start affecting them. We saw it with Kyle Lowry. And you usually see it in old point guards. Older point guards deteriorate very fast. And it's very rare for an old point guard to be productive on a night-to-night basis. So you're going to start seeing a dimension of that. We saw it here firsthand with Tim Hardaway. We saw his decline as he got older and older and older. So it is what it is. But for all our loyal listeners, thank you for tuning in on this hump day for Clutch. Well, yours truly, thank you. Remember, like, subscribe. No Holds Bar coming up right after this. And Clutch, our tradition, I'll lob it to you. Any final words?
No, man. Just, you know what? After I got all
That's
that
true,
off
too.
my chest,
What I was going to say.
I'm feeling a lot better. And
feeling a lot
if
better?
Jimmy's confident, I'll end it up like this. If Jimmy's confident, I'm confident. We're good to go.
Hey, no one has said it better, my man. So are we still saying Heat at 5?
Yeah, we're still saying Heat in 5, and we're still saying Scott Foster eats corn the long way.
Oh, but I love that, bro. The visual. All right, man. Until next Wednesday. Hopefully by next Wednesday, we'll be up 3-1 and about to close it out. Much love. Stay safe. Stay dry.